Hello everyone, welcome in this inventory advanced use case about purchase process monitoring. My name is Gilles and I'm a supply chain expert at Odoo. In this video, I want to provide a solution to the use case of Odics. Odics is a company selling smartphones. They manufacture the smartphone themselves and they need to procure the components. In another video with the context, you have seen what were their needs, and this is exactly what we want to tackle in this use case. We want to provide our solution to their problem. So if you have not watched the context video, really take the time to watch it in order to understand everything that is presented in this use case. So basically, the main questions for Odics, what they wanted to get from Odoo is, if they implement Odoo, how should they configure purchase and inventory in order to improve, to automate their purchase process, and also how can they make sure that different components can be managed differently. So they sell and manufacture smartphones. For that, they need to have multiple components, and different components have different replenishment strategy because some are more strategic, costly, or whatever than other components. How can we do that in Odoo? So to summarize their needs, we had defined 5 big steps, and we will tackle in this video of solution these 5 steps one by one. The first step is defining the strategies. For each component, we want to define when we want to replenish, how we want to replenish, and from which vendor. The second step would be to create the RFQ. So once we have defined the strategy, how do we create the RFQ, either manually, automatically, or semi-automatically? Once the RFQ, so the request for quotation, has been created, we need to track these RFQ to make sure to convert these into purchase order on time. Then we need to track the purchase orders themselves to make sure delivery will be done on time by the suppliers. And finally, once the whole purchasing process occurred, we want to be able to take one step back and analyze all the figures and KPIs and improve from the data in Odoo the purchasing process. So we want really here analyze how Odoo can help us in each of these situations, can help Odics actually. So the very first step is defining the strategy. So we know that one component would not necessarily be replenished in the same way than others. So either it can be replenished in a push logic, so we really make the forecast first, then purchase, produce, and then see demand. That will be done in Odoo through MPS. We will not cover this specific feature in this use case. We will be more focused here on the creation of RFQs from a pull logic, namely as a response to a trigger, which would be either a sale to a customer or a manufacturing order, in this case a production manufacturing order. So for that, we will configure all the components either with reordering rules, automated or manual, or with MTO. Dropship will not be covered neither. It's a specific use case also. But this really enables us with Odoo to make a specific strategy for each component, and we will see how after. Something very important also when you define a strategy for configuring a product is to make sure that it will be replenished from the right supplier. Some products are more important than others, or more maybe a technical strategic, I don't know, and for that you would base yourself on different suppliers. Maybe some are more like focusing on quality or technology, on some are more reliable than others, some are cheaper, some have shorter lead time. So depending on what you want for each product, what's your strategy for that product, you might want to have different vendors, and we want to see how we can introduce all this in Odoo. So let's see for this first step how we can manage that in Odoo. So to start, we go to the inventory, to the products, and I want to show that I have created one smartphone, which is a product I will manufacture myself. And for this smartphone, I've put by there, I can remove it. What's important is that there is a bill of material here, and this smartphone is composed of 5 components. And we will see for each of these components how these have been created. So if I go back to my products, I see that my components of this smartphone have been configured differently. So first of all, I want to speak about the screen. The screen is configured with the root MTO, which means every time I make a manufacturing order, if we don't have any stock on hand, we will reorder that. For which reason can we do MTO, maybe because MTO is when we don't want to have stock on hands, and this could be if the price of the components is expensive, for example. So in that case, I prefer not to have stocks, which would be costly. I should also have a short lead time if I want to do MTO, because I don't want to have too long lead times to get the components and then to manufacture the product. Then on this product, if I'm MTO, I have found a vendor which provide me a short delivery lead time to be consistent with that. Then for a second product, we have worked a bit differently. It's the DRAM, which is with an automated reordering rule 00. What does that mean on that product? So I will just buy it, and I have set a vendor. I have a reordering rule automated, which is 00, which means that automatically, if my forecasted quantity for that product goes below the minimum quantity below 0, I would reorder to reach 0. This means that I would not have any stock for this component as for the MTO, but I would not reorder based on a specific order, but more on the based on the global quantities um, for that for that component. So with the MTO, there is a real link between the manufacturing order and the purchase order that would result. And with automated reordering rule, there would not be a straight link between a manufacturing order and a component. That would be more a focus at the component level and not at the chain manufacturing order, purchase order level. Another product that has been configured here is the processor with an automated reordering rule, but here we have a minimum which is beyond above 0 and a max quantity also above 0, which means as soon as we have a forecasted quantity below this minimum, the system would automatically trigger an RFQ to reach the quantity we need plus the inventory we want to have on it. So with an automated reordering rule and some here quantities, we would have some inventories. This could be if for the processor, for example, we want to have a bit of stock for whatever reason. Maybe the delivery time is a bit longer, so I have defined here on my vendor price list um, the vendor that can supply me with this component. I see the delivery time is a bit longer, so I want to have some stock to be able to react if there is a need of anything. So we have really something similar for the MTO automated reordering rules for these two, which is that when we need these products, as soon as we get below a forecasted quantity, we would have an RFQ that would be automatically generated. So the system would automatically generate this RFQ for us. So as a purchase manager at Odics, you don't have to track all the information that would be created automatically. Then we have two other products. The battery here, I have set a manual reordering rule. So here, if I see I have two vendors, even three with different prices, different lead times, and so depending on the situation, I might want to select one rather than the other. I have also a minimum quantity and a maximum quantity, so I want typically to have some inventory on hand to be able to react, or if I have scrap somewhere, I want to be able to reuse that. I don't want to be blocked with that. And also I have some inventory I want to keep on hand, some safety stock basically. And for that situation, I have created here a trigger which is manual, which means that the RFQ will not be automatically created, but automatically suggested in the replenishment menu, but that will leave us some flexibility to play with the system and to change the quantity we want to order. So it's less automated. And finally, I have one component which is the camera here. I have not set any reordering rule, as we can see here, and I have not put empty on either. I will just purchase it. I have several vendors here. Here I have a delivery time which is very short, so I don't want to reorder automatically. I don't want to have stocks because I can leave my inventory at my suppliers. I want to have full flexibility, and I will see when I need this product, I don't need to do anything. It will appear in the replenishment menu, and I will be able to pilot my replenishment for that component from there. So this is all all fine there. When we define here the vendor prices, we have seen for each product we have to define which vendor we want to use. If there is one, several, what are the advantages from of one or the other. Something important here, when we define the supplier we want for each component, we might want to check this on-time delivery ratio, which gives you the percentage of units that have been delivered on time by this vendor. So that's a critical information. When you purchase from a vendor, it's important that you can trust this vendor. It's really reliable on the schedule, on the delivery date, so it respects, it meets the deadlines, and you have an information on that there. So the system gives you that. You don't have to think about it yourself. This is super convenient. Um, Something maybe also you might want to use when you are on a vendor in the internal notes, if it's enabled in the configuration, you can set a warning here on a supplier. You can do it also on the level product. This warning can be either just one warning or a blocking message. If it's a blocking message, you cannot select the vendor. So if I want to create myself an RFQ here, if I select Azure Interior, I have a message telling me, pay attention, this is an unreliable supplier. So you can really, with Odoo, manage your supply base with a few features like this one. So here I can still use it because it was not a blocking message. Finally, something that is also worth mentioning is that when you go in the inventory configuration, you can define some security time for purchase, which is a buffer such that all the scheduled receivings, um, everything you will receive will be scheduled earlier by 10 days to make sure that you have some buffer and you keep some security margin with the delivery times from the suppliers. So let's move now to the second part. So now that we have defined for each vendor, we've seen as a purchase manager at Odics, the purchase manager can really configure each product as he wants to replenish it at the right moment from the right supplier as he wants. That's really easy. Now we want also to now be able to create the RFQ. How the RFQ is created? We have said the RFQ should be created depending on plenty of different information. What's the inventory on hand? What's the forecasted inventory? Which sale order or manufacturing order are already planned? What are the lead times and so on? Based on all that, we have to know whether each component should be replenished or not. And that's very difficult to find all this information. It takes time. That's why Odoo will calculate everything for you. And by calculating that, Odoo can generate automatically RFQ, either with MTO or automated reordering rule, as we have said, or it can be semi-automated if we have manual reordering rules or if we have no reordering rule. That's exactly what we want to see in the next part. Okay, so we've seen in the previous part how we can really define a specific replenishment strategy by component. Now let's see how that would work in practice. So let's imagine we create a manufacturing order. Let's imagine we do that for the smartphone. Let's put a date like in 10 days. And I want to produce 1000. So I have a need for all these components. I confirm my manufacturing order. I need to replenish all these components. So I see that for some of these I have some stock, but not enough. I have some inventory, but not enough. Some are not available at all. And I won't need to reorder all these. So based on what we have defined, I can first go to my RFQs. So here I have all my purchase orders that are not still configured. So if I look at the last one, I see I need what you need. It's an automated reordering rule 00. So I have no inventory for that. So as soon as I have a need of these components, I need to place a purchase order here. So this is my RFQ. This is created automatically thanks to the automated reordering rule. That would be the same here for the automated reordering rule with some inventory. So what we have seen for that, if we look on the product, we have 15 units on hand. So the system knows that the maximum quantity, the safety stock we want to have is 15. We have 15 on hand. We need 1000. So the system says, okay, I just need 1000 such that I can use the 15 I have on hand plus 9 185 and still build my safety stock for the future. So this is also created automatically. This is super convenient. I don't have to pay attention to plenty of different information. As a purchasing manager, I can just trust the system. And if it's automatically created, it's because I don't need to think about it for the the RFQ for which I need more flexibility. Then I will use another replenishment strategy. That makes the system very flexible, very automated, very convenient. Here for the screen, it's MTO. As soon as I need it, I have no inventory, so I just replenish what I need. So that's the same logic here as we've seen before. So that works really well. Then that's for MTO automated reordering rule. Everything that creates automatically my RFQs. Of course, when you want to have automatically created RFQs, you need to define a vendor in your vendor price list. That's a required condition. And then for the battery and camera, battery, it's a manual reordering rule with minimum maximum. The system sees, okay, we have 265 on hand because we need 1000 forecasted quantities minus 735. I know I want to reorder to reach 50, so it will just add up 50 to 735, and the system suggests to order 785. For the camera, the system just see what's the forecasted quantity. Because it's negative, it will be displayed here. So you need to know in this replenishment menu, you will see all the products for which you have a forecasted quantity that is below the minimum quantity of the reordering rule. But for the camera, there is no reordering rule. But if the forecasted quantity is negative, it will be displayed automatically with these filters in the replenishment menu. This is really this menu displays everything you need to reorder. So everything that is not there does not need to be reordered a priori. So here, the benefits to have this menu is that you have full flexibility. It's a manual trigger, so you change everything you want. The system tells you, based on what you have defined, this is what you should reorder. But if you say, look, I anticipate a higher need in the coming weeks, I will reorder a little bit more. That's possible. Here you have also the little eye. Look, you have different vendors that can supply you. This has a really short lead time, but maybe you prefer to have a lower price. No, I still want to stick with Gemini Furniture because they have a short lead time. I will just keep that one. You could even decide if you wanted to manufacture it rather than buy it. You really have full flexibility. Let's say that here for the camera, I want also to have 1000. And then you can do other ones, and RFQs would be generated automatically. So that's not like this. I need to sort here by number, and I see the battery I just filled out an RFQ has been created. So you see the system is super convenient. Once you have defined correctly a strategy, the RFQs will be either suggested from the replenishment menu, either automatically created if you have required so. Okay, so that's really good. So now that you have all your RFQs created, you need to check them. You need to make sure that you will convert these into a purchase order at the right moment. So as long as it's an RFQ, it's not yet confirmed to the vendor. So the vendor doesn't have to deliver anything. So you need to make sure to take into account the lead time to convert the RFQ at the right moment. So if you need 10 days to be delivered from your vendor, then you need to confirm to the vendor that he has to deliver you at least 10 days before that you need the component. So that's something you would be able to check directly into Odoo, of course. So for that we have, so if we go in the purchase app, we arrive directly on the RFQ menu. And then there, we can play really a lot with this menu. We have plenty of features that are very nice. First, we can store uh, some purchase orders. So let's see these ones. I know they are really related to manufacturing order important. I want to start this. I want to try this very as a priority. So if I go back on purchase, automatically all these start purchase order or RFQ so far will be displayed here. Also, I want to track my RFQ, so I will put a filter to display only RFQs and not purchase order anymore. That's important. Also, in the configuration, in the settings, you have, I think it's in the inventory, yes, you have days to purchase. Days to purchase is typically when an RFQ is created, how many days in advance do you want to have a deadline? So how many days before having to be delivered do you want that you need to confirm the RFQ? So to make it more clear, if I go back to my menu here, my RFQ, if I take this one for example, I can see here that this battery and manual real rule. There is, I have taken, I think, Germany furniture, so it's a lead time, yes, of 3 days. So we see that the receipt date is the 13th of November, and the order deadline is 3 days before because 3 days is the lead time. And the order deadline is also 3 days ahead of the date of today because the system knows that we need 3 days to be able to send by email to the customer that we need that many batteries, so that you just do it by send by mail. Then the supplier will come back to you and tell you, okay, I can do that. The, the lead time is confirmed, and you have the time really to confirm and validate, because that's really what's important now, is to determine at some point, okay, now I can confirm this order, I can turn my RFQ into a purchase order. So that's the days to purchase, which are important here. You have also all the RFQs and my RFQs, the one you have still to send, the one that have been sent but waiting, and the one that have been sent or not, but which are late. Okay, all RFQs, just your words if you want to make the difference between these two. Then you can really play with this whole value, which is very complex. You have many information to make sure that you can track all the RFQs and turn these on time. So typically, what could be interesting to do is to sort these by deadline. When you sort by order deadline, you see the deadline, you see exactly what we just discussed, you see what you have to convert when. So when you see that you are late for some of these, it means that probably you will be delivered too late. So maybe there is a problem, there is something to do. When you see it's today, you see what you have to do today. It means that this is really important. I have to confirm it today. Uh, Here I don't, there is no product, but whatever. But you see what you have to do in a few days, and you really have the information of what you have to do today, what you are late for, and what for what you still have a bit of time. You can of course make a group by order deadline. That would be here, order deadline. Then you can also do a group by vendor. So if you have multiple RFQs for one vendor, maybe you want to group some of these. You want to ask for a rebate, so you can see that if you need to negotiate with a supplier, it's quite easy to group that all together. If you want to group by, for example, as we said, order deadline, let's do that. And you think this is really here order deadline, I want to go by day. You think that's really the most important, so you can put it as a favorite, you can save it and use it by default if you want. So every time you will come back here on the purchase app, that would be the one that would be displayed by default. That's really you to see how you want to play with this menu. What is also very interesting with this menu is to see the purchase representative. So as a purchase manager, you can really see what you have to do yourself, but also what your employees or colleagues have to do. So for example, if you think here, if I take the last one we have done, Gemini Furniture, maybe I think here that the purchase representative should be John Dew, so I can assign him to this, and then I will be able, if I click on that, I reach this, and I can make a log note at I want it to at John Dew and say how is it with this one, and you can ask for information. You will receive a notification and can tell you. Or if you think it's more urgent or you want to discuss, you click on the little icon here, and you would be directly in discussion with him. Either you can call him or you can have a video conference with him. So it's super convenient. Super easy. You discuss with all your employees and you see what people have to do. Similarly, you can use the activities as many places in Odoo, and these activities will be displayed here. So, for example, you need to send an email, and it's not me to do it; it's John. I want him to do that by after tomorrow. I schedule this, and so this will be appear here. Everyone can track what is to be done on this one. If somebody is absent, you can still see what has to be done. So you can really play with that very easily. Something maybe also important is that when you track the RFQs, it's a focus which is order by order. So you really see this is my RFQ. It's not based on the vendor. It's not based on products. It's a whole order, and you track that as a whole order. But sometimes maybe you want to see, okay, I need some screen. I want to know what's my situation in terms of screen, and you see all the RFQ, the purchase order maybe ongoing, which one has been cancelled, and you can really see in which RFQ this product is present. And if you want more detail about that, so like what's coming about that, what we need, you can always go on the so you can go on forecasted here, but you can also click here and you reach this forecasted report, and you see which unit have been ordered, why they will be used, and what's pending, and so on. So you really see all the situation for that product. So from this, you can very easily also make an analysis product by product. Finally, a last thing that is important for purchasing manager is when there are purchase order that need to be confirmed by somebody else. If the amount is high, you can set a limit here so that every time the purchase order, the RFQ would be beyond this limit, you would have to approve it, and somebody who does not have full rights of on inventory would not be able to, or on purchase, sorry, would not be able to confirm this alone. So you have a double level of security if this is needed. So from there also, of course, the next step, if I remove that and just keep my RFQs, the next step would be then to validate the RFQ step by step. Maybe you want just to change the deadline for this, it will arrive a bit earlier. The supplier has told me the price will be a bit earlier this time, and then you can confirm it. So you track your RFQs, you modify as needed, and then everything there it's easy to follow, easy to track, and you can easily make sure that everything will be delivered on time and that you are not late for things that for which you should not be late. So this is really to track your RFQs and turn these into a PO. The last step, which is also last step from the manufacturing process, which is also very important, is to track your purchase order. So then once you have agreed on the purchase order, your vendor still need to supply you. And this is really something important. And as a purchasing manager, sometimes you don't really have much power there. You are just waiting for the order, and you just hope that it will be delivered on time. But actually, you can do more with Odoo. So first of all, if we jump directly into Odoo, here on your, if you are in uh, the main menu, you would have the purchase order. So here, it's actually exactly the same as the RFQ, but there is a filter directly on the purchase order. So you don't see the RFQ here anymore. It's just the purchase order. So that's what you want to track. And then you can see which are the receipt date, and you see which one should be received when. So this is the one that should be received the 4 of November, 17. Okay, then it's increasing. Okay, so then you see what should be received when. You see when it has been confirmed. You see for which one there is activities, who is the purchase representative. You can contact him. So it's still the same logic. So for that, it's very convenient. You can still use the group by of my purchase representative, for example, if you know what you have to track yourself. Okay, I see this is all important. If I think it's the main view, I can save it as a favorite. This is still the same thing, but in addition of tracking, something very interesting that you have here is that on a vendor, you can decide to send receipt reminder. What is it? a receipt reminder is that a few days, and you define that vendor by vendor. So here I can say finally it will be 5 days because they've been late a few times. So you just say, okay, for that vendor, I want to automatically send a receipt reminder 5 days before the delivery date. This is super convenient because it will enable you actually to track the supplier's delivery. So if you go on a purchase order, so let's go back. So maybe let's take uh, any of these. So here I see the uh, receipt reminder has not yet been sent, but it's been already uh, okay. It's been already received. So let's create a new purchase order for Bloom, for example. We see that the time that it's being defined here. Let's put uh, a schedule date in the future. I take anything, just one. I just confirm the other. And then what will happen actually is that 5 days before, oh, I didn't click correctly, so let's change that. So let's put 26. So 5 days before there, so the 21st of November, actually, a receipt reminder would be automatically be sent to Bloom to just tell them, look, you have to supply us to deliver us at that time. Will you be on time? And actually, if for whatever reason you want to send it at another moment, you can always just go on action, send the reminder to the supplier, and this supplier would be sent like this. So it will appear here, and actually the supplier would receive something like that, a mail which would look like this. It's not this one especially, but it would be exactly the same template. And there the supplier just has to say, yes, I know I have to deliver that at that period, at that day, and yes, I'm on time, or no, I will not be on time, and they can update the date. There, if it's confirmed, you will have the information that it's been confirmed by the supplier. I don't know if I have one. Yeah, like here, it's been confirmed by the vendor, it's fine. If they change the date, the receipt date will be automatically updated. So you really have full control on that. You have tools to really ease you to track all these processes out. Then the reception itself, it's not the job of the purchase manager anymore, so that will not be done by the that will not be covered in this video. But something that could also be interesting is that once you have received the goods, so here let's see the reception is done, yes, you might want on the purchase order to lock it, and if you do that after, if you don't use the lock for something else, you can still go by maybe more like filter on the status and see is not locked, and you will see like all the process order which are locked will just disappear. That could be interesting actually if you want to remove from your list here everything that is done and delivered and finished. So that could be also very interesting for you if you want just to keep the current lines that have an importance today over there. So you want just to clean your plate and remove everything that you do not need to do, what you haven't had to do anymore. So you just focus on the line which are important. Okay, so then we can move to the last step. So this was the whole purchasing process, and we've seen how Odoo can really help the purchasing manager at Odics or anywhere else in all the situations. And now we want to say, okay, now the purchasing process happened. We want to use all the information in Odoo to improve our purchasing process, maybe to redefine the purchasing strategy for different components. How can we do that? And actually, we have plenty of information in Odoo, and we want to use this information to improve the purchasing process. So for that, let's first focus on the reporting. So um, I go to Odoo. So I'm in the purchase application, and in the reporting, I have here the purchase. So here I will not go into all the details, but you have several measures you can focus, like the quantity billed, order received, this to receive, this to confirm, and so on. You can really play with all the information. You can choose which graphs you want to display. You can see how you want to sort the graphs. Then you can filter if you don't want to display all the information. You can make group by vendor, for example, if you want to have this untaxed total by vendor or by vendor country, by purchase representative. You can really do what you want. So here, also importantly, if you define that you want another date, like by quarter or a filter here, I want to display only the value for 21. As soon as you select a filter by date, you would be able to make a comparison with, for example, the previous year, and you would see that you have made much more sales, purchase rather than sale this year rather than previous year. So you have really all the information that would be here and that are very interesting. Also, if you go in the purchase app, you have by default a few KPIs. So this gives you some information about the last 7 days, how much you have purchased and how many RFQs you have sent. Then you have the average order value, which can be interesting to compare with the current purchase order you might create. And finally, you have the lead time purchase, which is actually how many days do you need to convert an RFQ into a PO, which tells you a bit how you have to manage your RFQs and how many days to purchase you have to define in the settings. That's very convenient. Of course, many other information can be found in Odoo. So, for example, if you go to the vendor, you have the analysis vendor by vendor. So here, if you click on the purchase, you have all the purchases. And you see the status here. So for some of them, they are purchase orders, some are RFQ cancelled. So you can really see what's the total quantity you have purchased from each vendor, and that would be interesting. For example, if you need to negotiate with the supplier better prices for the next season, that's information that are there very important. And then you can also see easily whether it's been delivered on time and so on. And so you have this information, which is of course in addition of the on-time delivery ratio that we already discussed. Also, if you go to the technical menu, if you go to models, and if you type like purchase, you can go to purchase order line. Then you can create a menu. If you do that, then in your application purchase, you can find the menu purchase order line, which can be interesting. Then if you have, for example, if you want to have analysis product by product, so I can see my battery, I have purchased that from different vendor, what was the unit price, and I can compare. Then if I do like group by vendor, and I can see really what was like the price and so on. So you find information there, and you can also make analysis product by product. So P lines might be interesting in some specific case. Of course, something you might want also to do is playing with the exports. Either you export directly the figure from the RFQ or purchase order menu. Either you can also export the information from the supplier. So for example, if I select all my supplier here, I can export. For example, I have the name of the supplier. I might be also interesting to find the on-time delivery by supplier, and maybe I don't know purchase order count or the purchase order, and I can export that information. Then I would have directly for each vendor how much I have purchased and what was the on-time delivery ratio, and I can see whether I have maybe to renegotiate or change of supplier for some products. Finally, something I want to show you, if I go here in my RFQs, I might be interested maybe to filter just on purchase orders. And here something very interesting is also to play with the uh, pivot view, and there you can decide, for example, okay, I want to display the total I have purchased from here. It could be like by purchase representative, or it can be also by vendor. You can really decide to display what you want, a bit like when you are in the reporting here. But something interesting also is that if you have a document application, you can insert this in the spreadsheet, which enables you then to add information, calculations, or you can also make other calculation as you want. For example, if I wave my category, depending on how good these are, I can do like A, B, B, C, and C, and I can see, no, so this is total. I can see, for example, that Decodate is a good category, but I do not purchase a lot from them. And yeah, you can really add as you want. This can really provide you some flexibility. So with this, as a purchase manager, with all these tools, all this information, it's very clear that you can really take a step back and see whether the decisions you have made in defining the strategy by component is the right one, and if you want to adapt it based on what happened on the previous year, for example. So if we want to summarize what we have done, we've really seen how Odoo could help uh, Odics or the purchase manager at Odics or in another company to really define strategy component by component, then to create the RFQs either automatically or semi-automatically. Of course, it could have been done also manually, but we did not focus on that. Then we have seen how we could track the RFQs to turn these into a PO at the right moment and to make sure that taking into account the lead time, we would receive the components on time to make the manufacturing order. So then we did not focus on the manufacturing order we used for the example, but then still tracking the RFQ would have happened exactly as we did. Finally, we have used all the information and we saw how we could use this information to get um, uh, information on how we manage the process of the purchasing and how we can improve it. So basically, this is all for the solution. Of course, this is a broad application. You can probably imagine other things, but this is already some tips and tricks that you can use. Thank you very much if you followed this whole use case, and I wish you to have a nice day and see you next time in another inventory use case. Bye bye.